Yeah, from the culture
to the courtroom.
This is true fun cut. From the culture to the courtroom, front row seats when Dennis Byron speaks. History speaks. From the culture to the courtroom, front row seats when Dennis Byron speaks. History speaks from the culture.
No cap, no spin, just facts. If it matters, we cover it. What's ready, B.I.B.? Ooh, Byron wanna know. Ooh, it's shit the Dennis Byron show.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Put a 1 in the chat if you hear the sound of my voice. Make sure you can hear the sound. Okay, so I was just live earlier today. We were watching the young man, Ice Speed, doing his thing in Morocco. But while we talking about Morocco, I have one of my friends who's there right now. Someone's been there for a couple of months. And apparently there's some kind of special game happening today. It's probably happening right now as we speak, but I'm gonna try to get him on, get some updates on what's happening in Morocco right now. But the title of this story is "They Traded in Their Uniforms." And when I say they, who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the Proud Boys. We want to know where the Proud Boys went at right after they got the pardons from President Trump. They disappeared. Or did they really disappear? We heard not a word from the Proud Boys in there, any protests. You see protests that happen in Minnesota right now. There are protests in New York, but we don't see the Proud Boys anywhere, or do we? Well, according to news reports, several of the Proud Boys, or many of the Proud Boys, have joined ICE. So they got jobs as federal agents now. That is interesting. While they got pardons from the president, I'm surprised that they would be chosen to be a part of a federal agency. If you think about what they stand for and how much attention they received during January 6th, for them to join the ICE agents, the many question whether or not they have sufficient training in dealing with these high tense situations. And now we are learning that perhaps some of the members of the Proud Boys are now ICE agents. And one of my favorite content creators spoke about it. I want to bring his video up right now, as a matter of fact. I'm going to bring that video up. If we can bring it up, okay. Oh, you know why we can't bring it up? Because we got to remove this one from the stage. Let's go. Let's go at this one here. Here we go. There we go. Let's go.
I got a question, if I may. What happened to the Proud Boys? Where are the Proud Boys with everything that's going on in the world? All these people out here protesting ICE, standing up against ICE, standing up against law enforcement. That's like the Proud Boys' whole thing, to go counter protest, right? Remember BLM? When that movement was happening, boy, they were out in force, running their mouths, putting hands on people. Where'd all of these black and yellow fellas go? Now that ICE is out and dealing with so much opposition, why aren't the Proud Boys out there helping them? Oh, wait, they are. They're just in different outfits now. The Proud Boys. Yeah, one of its founders, Enrique Tarrio, in a leak, has been named as a member of ICE. He's not officially with the Proud Boys anymore. Doesn't need to be. They formed a new team. So it would appear what happened to the Proud Boys was they all got promotions and they're getting paid to do what they do now. I got a question, if I may. What happened to the Proud Boys?
Well, if that is true, someone would say that's a problem. We know that at least one member of ICE killed Renee Good. Was he a Proud Boy? Was he a Proud Boy? We don't know. But it might deserve some research to see whether or not he was ever a member of the Proud Boys. Then we had recently, actually today, Kristi Noem spoke about the activities and operation that is now taking place in Minneapolis. And she was on Face the Nation today. And I think I have that clip as well. We're going to remove this one here. And let's see if we can grab the other one. No, we don't want that one. We want to bring the other clip up. Here we go. Make sure we get that there. Here we go. So
all the dangerous people are picked up, brought to justice, and then deported back to their home countries.
Or a date?
We wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't be in this situation if Joe Biden hadn't allowed our open border policies to be in place and allowed up to 20 million people unvetted into this country. We have no idea how many dangerous people are here. When you have millions of people coming in that are terrorists, suspected terrorists, criminals, come from countries in the mass migration that the Biden administration facilitated, I can't tell the people of Minnesota exactly how many dangerous criminals they have. I do know that they're extremely grateful every time we get a pedophile off the street. We arrested an individual this week that was raping children. I think those parents in Minnesota can sleep better at night knowing that that person isn't free.
Sure, but you just said millions. What's the breakdown of the percentage of those who you have in custody who have actually committed a criminal offense versus just the civil infraction?
Every single individual has committed a crime, but 70% of them have committed or have charges against them on violent crimes and crimes that they are charged with or have been convicted of that have come from other countries that are here illegally, first of all, and then they have committed a criminal act while they've been here or in their home countries as well.
It's not 70%.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
70% of everyone
you guys
have
keep
detained
changing your percentage. You pick and choose what numbers you think work, but that is the facts, is that 70% of the people that we have detained have charges against them or have been convicted of charges, and they need to be brought to justice. And we're going to keep doing that no matter how much you guys keep lying and don't tell the public the truth. It absolutely.
So she says 70% of all the people that they have apprehended, 70%. Those are high numbers. But how do you quantify that? 70%. Let's think about that number for a second. Then we're going to hear another number. 2%. 2% of the people that are here in America illegally. 2%. There's 2% of illegal aliens in America, according to the data. So they're throwing numbers out 70%. So is that concentrated in Minneapolis?
Absolutely is that these law enforcement officers are out there every day doing the work to protect the American people, and they will keep doing that because they believe in enforcing the law, which is exactly what President Trump has charged them with.
Okay. Well, our reporting is that 47%, based on your agency's own numbers, 47% have criminal convictions against them. But let's talk about.
So she just touted 70%. Her own agency is saying 47%. So why doesn't she know the numbers that are coming out her own agency? Just saying anything.
The other
You're
numbers
wrong again. Absolutely. We'll get you the correct numbers so you can use them in the future.
Well, that's from your agency. Let's talk about our numbers here at CBS. 54% of Americans think the ICE agent shooting of Renee Good was not justified. 60% say the Trump administration responded to the ICE agent's actions unfairly. These numbers show you do not have the American public on your side. Does that concern you?
Well, the facts are that this individual weaponized her car and threatened the life of the law enforcement officer and those around him. And that is what the media needs to cover. People understand is the truth when they have the chance to hear the facts around the case. And this individual was impeding law enforcement operations for quite some time before this incident happened. It's a tragedy that this situation has happened in this country. And we hope there's never another situation like this before. But this officer relied on his training to defend his life and to defend those around him. And
So Renee Good received at least 4 shots, at least 2 to 3 to the head. The fire department said there were 4 shots fired into that car. What she's saying, what Kristi Noem is saying right now, is not accurate. The evidence doesn't show that. The videos doesn't show what she's saying. But keep on.
we're grateful that we're in a situation where we hope that more people don't weaponize their vehicles like this. We're seeing it happen over and over again. We've seen over 100 different vehicle weaponized and attacking law enforcement officers. I would hope that Mayor Fry, when he's on here, that he'll announce that he's going to start working with us to bring safety to the streets. If he would set up a peaceful protest zone so that these individuals can exercise their First Amendment rights and do so peacefully, we would love that, because then we could work together.
If Mayor Fry would set up a peaceful protest zone. So let's unpack that statement. If you are in a zone that is set up by the government, are you really protesting? If they can put you in behind a barricade to protest, is that really a protest? Because a protest traditionally is protesting outside the boundaries of the norm, not in a designated area. That's not a protest. So for her to say that's a protest, that's not a protest, and that's not exercising your First Amendment to move freely, to protest peacefully. And I agree, these protests should be peaceful, but to put them in a box, no, that's not a protest. It really is not.
Together to make sure we're getting criminals to justice and letting people still express their First Amendment rights.
Well, you know that it is in dispute about weaponizing a car versus driving forward, but I'll put that aside.
No, it's really not. Everybody can watch the videos and see that.
Well,
We watched the videos. Renee Good wasn't weaponizing a vehicle. She was moving out the way. Big difference.
Talk to you about the officer, Jonathan Ross. He was struck. He was hospitalized.
Oh, don't say his name. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we shouldn't have people continue to dox law enforcement when they have an.
What do you mean don't say his name? There was a GoFundMe set up for Ross. The GoFundMe raised over $400,000. I don't know what the number is right now, but she's not doxing anyone. His name is all over social media. So what are we talking about here?
His name is public.
8,000% increase
He
in
was
death threats against
struck
them. I know, but
and
that doesn't mean it
hospitalized.
should continue to be said. His life, he got attacked with a car that was trying.
He didn't get attacked with a car. Cut the crap. He was never attacked with a car. That's crap.
To take his life, and then the people have
Well, we
attacked
don't-
him and his family, and they are in jeopardy. And we have law enforcement officers every day who are getting death threats and getting attacked at their hotels.
Well,
and
can
are
you tell me
getting,
about his status?
How are they getting death threats and attacked at their hotels and they're wearing masks? No one knows these people. They're literally wearing masks, but they actually signed up for the job. No different than the patrolmen that are in the communities across America. They sign up to be a member of law enforcement, police officers. They don't wear masks. They are in plain view of the public, as these ICE agents should be as well. Because if you're wearing a mask, you're signaling to the public that you're doing something wrong. Because the public also has the right to be protected against enemies. And these could be enemies of the state. Let's be honest.
Right
ice
now?
thrown at them and getting.
Well, of course, no one
can tell you
condones
that he's
violence
healing.
against anyone. But here, CBS reported that he did have internal bleeding in the torso, but he was released that same day. So is he back at work? Did you give
I'm
him
not
the
gonna share
required
his-
3 days of
I'm not gonna-
suspension?
We followed the exact same protocols that we always have for years as to investigations into these situations. But
3 days of
I'm not going to talk
administrative
about his
leave?
medical records. I know that you know that in itself is his prerogative to discuss his health, but we're hopeful that all of our law enforcement officers know that they can go out and do their job,
Yep.
apply the law equally to everyone, and that they can do so safely, and that the media and people aren't going to attack them for standing up for what's right.
I'm asking you about your policies. I asked you if you had put him on administrative leave. This is in question because the governor of Minnesota said the only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her. Is he correct that the federal agent is not being investigated in any way? Is there any review of protocol here?
We are following the exact same investigative and review process that we always have under ICE and under the Department of Homeland Security and within the administration, the exact same policy that the Biden administration used.
So
the exact
his
same
actions
review.
are being
So we haven't
reviewed?
changed any of that. I would not listen to Governor Walz. He has a very bad track record. All this billions of dollars of fraud was stolen from people under his watch. He allowed it to happen. And he also ignored the law and allowed the city of Minneapolis to burn down in 2020. He certainly isn't have good judgment in these types of situations, and I'm not going to be taking any advice from him on how we implement
So-
the law and protect people.
Do I understand you saying that the Office of Professional Responsibility is doing its own probe to determine that the ICE agent violated protocol and that he was on 3 days of administrative leave, because that is what is in the handbook?
The protocol and the advice and the guidance within that handbook and within our policies is being followed exactly
Okay.
like it has been for years.
Okay, so there is some review of his actions, is what I understand you saying there.
Margaret, there always is. Every law enforcement officer knows that. When they take the oath to step up and to protect the public and put their lives on the line, they absolutely know that everything that they do will be analyzed and investigated. But also what I don't think they realized until just recently is how the liberals and the Democrats and the media would attack them and try to ruin their lives for doing.
Why is she politicizing a basic interview question? Her job is to inform the public of what her job is, and is she doing her job, and is the agency that she is heading following proper protocol and procedures. Not to blame a former administration, but to talk to the American people about what she's doing as the head of ICE, Homeland Security.
what's right. And we're seeing in Minneapolis an unprecedented fraud history going on by elected leaders and individuals in that state.
So we go from immigrants to quote unquote fraud. Think about that. She's on the show to talk about ICE agents, but now she's talking about the fraud. So she's not listening to Governor Walz and anything he has to say, because she's claiming that under his administration, monies have been stolen or whatever. But we're here to talk about the ICE agent and the ICE operations that are taking place in Minneapolis. But attacking the governor is, in my opinion, a deflection.
But also criminal activity, and it's being allowed to happen. When we did these operations in other cities across the country, we didn't see this kind of violence. We didn't see organized, funded protesters come in to conduct.
Now she's saying they're organized and funded by who? George Soros? Who is she talking about? A protest should be organized. No one should be in the street not having an organized protest. They should be organized, or you will have real chaos. So they should be organized. People should be told what they can do and what they cannot do. That's what organization looks like. So she's actually saying something that should be taking place with the protests.
Acts of violence against our law enforcement officers,
let's
like
talk
we're
about
seeing
that.
in Minneapolis. The elected leaders and Mayor Fry is allowing that to happen and allowing this kind of violence to happen when we didn't see it in Louisiana, we didn't see it in Florida, we didn't see it in other cities.
We will talk to Fry about what's happening
we
in his
shouldn't
city.
have to be watching it here in Minneapolis.
But we have heard, and I'm asking you here about the security of your agents that you say you are concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
The local police chief said your agents are being forced into situations out in Minneapolis that they're not prepared to deal with. And we looked, and the Government Accountability Office said back in 2021, most ICE agents are not trained to handle crowd control. So are you looking at expanding the training for the agents that you are putting in this situation that you describe as dangerous out in Minneapolis?
They are absolutely trained for the situations that they're put in.
That's not true. They don't train for protests at the borders. They don't train for that because they have pretty much barriers set up at these borders. And they're not trained for that type of crowd control in metropolitan cities. And if you're not working with local law enforcement, then you're going into areas that you're not prepared for. And that's where the confusion has happened, because they're not prepared to enter into a city like a state like Minneapolis, city like Minneapolis. But more importantly, they are not prepared and they're not coordinating with law enforcement. So these things are happening. Now, even if we look at the situation involving Renee Good, why were the ICE agents in the street in the first place? And why were they coordinating with local law enforcement for traffic control?
Would never put an officer in a situation that they would be beyond their training and skill set. And so these are highly trained individuals that are here and in Minneapolis doing the operations they are. And frankly,
on
the
crowd
Minneapolis
control and
chief of police is
de-escalation?
not an expert. Absolutely, they are trained to that. Their specialized skill set is being utilized for where they are located and the jobs that they are doing in Minneapolis and across other cities across the country. They have an incredible amount of training that is ongoing throughout their careers.
Do you want to
in
expand
crowd
that?
Control, in handling enforcement operations that they have. Do I want to expand it based on the Minneapolis police chief's advice?
Well, some
Not on his advice.
No, but
I will
some
continue
Republican
to use.
lawmakers have called
If
for
you
that.
remember, well, Republican lawmakers and Democrat lawmakers, they absolutely can continue to debate. That's what they're supposed to do, is work on policy and pass laws. What I know is that under the Department of Homeland Security has always been entrusted with training our federal law enforcement officers. We do it for many different agencies. We train those within the ATF, the DEA. We train those that are established across the country.
Yep.
We are the largest law enforcement operation and department in the government beyond the Department of War. And we're proud of that. And we've done it with excellence for years and are continuing to put the resources and people into our law enforcement officers. They need to change and to challenge these situations they're facing on the ground.
Yeah, but you've described this situation as unique. You've acknowledged that. I want to talk to you about some of the incidents that the public has seen. There was a U.S. citizen, Aliyah Rahman, on her way to a medical appointment out in Minneapolis. She was dragged out of her car and detained. Video of her arrest was spreading on social media. There were allegations there of aggressive tactics. You've seen other incidents, for example, out in Minneapolis, this family with 6 children, with one as young as 6 months old, got kind of caught in the incident as they were driving to basketball practice.
Mm-hmm.
The mother, Destiny Jackson, told CBS ICE agents stopped the car, told them to leave, but the agents were in the way, and they feared that they would have happened to them what happened to Renee Good. They didn't drive off. ICE released a canister of tear gas, and the mother described giving her infant CPR. We're showing that video there. Do any of these tactics seem to you heavy-handed?
That family was caught up in that situation because of violent protesters that were impeding law enforcement operations. And that family would have never been in that situation if those protesters had been acting peacefully and law enforcement was able to do their job without being threatened. And so it's a terrible situation that family had to go through. And I hope it never happens again. But we need to remember that because the mayor and the governor have allowed this kind of violence to be perpetuated across Minneapolis is why there's other innocent.
No accountability. This is what leadership. She runs Homeland Security. No accountability. Those ICE agents never assess the risk of deploying that canister. And as you hear the host say, there was a 6-month-old child there who got inhalation from the gas. So where is the accountability? All I hear is blaming others and not the accountability of the ICE agents guys, I know I lost you for a minute. We had a we're back. We are back. All right, guys. Sorry about that. So we heard. All right, guys. So, all right, guys. Okay, so we were listening to Homeland Security Director. We were listening Christy Nome, and I got feedback. Homeland Security Director. We were listening Christy Nome. Okay, and I got feedback. Okay, hold on. Okay, we're back. Okay, so sorry. So we were listening to Christy Nome explain the actions of her ICE agents. And we left off with her trying to explain away the actions by the agent or agents who tossed that can of the gas grenade at the family, and she blamed it on the protesters. But we don't have any other angles to show where these protesters impeded the movement of the family. So I mean, this is great talking points, but it just doesn't pass the smell test. And obviously, her job is to push back at the media and anyone who's asking questions that would put in question the behavior of the people that work under her. So yeah, we have some problems here, and these problems are not going to go away overnight. I see some comments coming in. Let's see here. Yeah, no, I mean this again. I saw that ICE agent in the case of Renee Good walk away. So how do you have internal bleeding? I don't see any angles, or he wore body cam. He had a GoPro and he had some kind of, he was recording at some point. Where is the video of him being struck? There are things that are missing here. But, you know, we'll probably never know. I mean, this will be like, you know, the Epstein files. We have received only, the American people have only received redactions and drips of Epstein files given to the public. We don't know what's actually there. I mean, I never expected us to get, when I say us, the American people, the media, to get full disclosure of those documents. But again, the Biden administration could have did the dump as well. So I don't know why they didn't do a dump. But that's another question. I just want to finish up just briefly in what she was saying. I want to pull her video back up because we left it somewhere and we want to make sure we continue. Again, there we go. We're going to bring that up here. We want to put it to a position where I think we got there. Hold on. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna probably put it up from this position here. I'm gonna share this with you guys. Okay. I'm pulling this in real time. We're gonna share this here. I'm gonna expand expand that for you. Okay. We don't want that one. So I'll expand that a little bit. Let me expand that just a little bit. Okay. We'll expand that and play that there. Let's go.
In the incident, as they were driving to basketball practice, the mother, Destiny Jackson, told CBS ICE agents stopped the car, told them to leave, but the agents were in the way, and they feared that they would have happened to them what happened to Renee Good. They didn't drive off. ICE released a canister of tear gas, and the mother described giving her infant CPR. We're showing that video there. Do any of these tactics seem to you heavy-handed?
That family was caught up in that situation because of violent protesters that were impeding law enforcement operations. And that family would have never been in that situation if those protesters had been acting peacefully and law enforcement was able to do their job without being threatened. And so it's a terrible situation that family had to go through. And I hope it never happens again. But we need to remember that because the mayor and the governor have allowed this kind of violence to be perpetuated across Minneapolis is why there's other innocent people that are impacted throughout the city, but throughout their state as well. And it doesn't have to be this way. They could establish a peaceful protest zone. They could enforce their laws. And if Governor Walz didn't recognize that what he is doing there is poor leadership, he wouldn't have put his National Guard on standby in order to respond. And I'm hopeful that he does recognize that he needs to start working with us.
Are your agents going to comply
I know the
with
White House has asked him to.
Sorry, with the federal order on Friday to not use chemical agents?
That federal order was a little ridiculous because that federal judge came down and told us we couldn't do what we already aren't doing. We
just saw video of chemical agents being used.
We only use those chemical agents when there's violence happening and perpetuating, and you need to be able to establish law and order to keep people safe. That's the only situation. So that judge's order didn't change anything for how we're operating on the ground because it's basically telling us to do what we've already been doing.
The order states that the ICE agents cannot use chemical agents. Well, what she just said was they will use it in certain circumstances. That's far different than what the judge's order was. So the order wasn't ridiculous. It's her interpretation of the judge's order that is ridiculous. The order was very clear. Do not use chemical agents on American citizens. But she said, it's ridiculous. No, your interpretation of the order is ridiculous.
Madam Secretary, thank you for your time this morning. We go now to Castlewood.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's what we're dealing with right now. So we want to know how many Proud Boys have joined ICE agents, and hopefully the next time the Secretary of Homeland does an interview, the person asking the questions perhaps can do a query into how many members of the Proud Boys are now ICE agents. Something that we want to know. Some of us really want to know that. How many members of the Proud Boys are ICE agents? And what is the training that they received? Because when we listened to this interview that was just completed, the secretary stated that these agents have extensive training. However, if Proud Boys have joined the agency in the last 6 months, that's not extensive training. And most are not trained to deal with that type of situation in just a few months. But we'll see. Time will tell. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining, and I'll see you guys back on the next live. With that, we're going to take it out, unless we have any questions. Do we have any questions here? No, I see a lot of questions here. Okay. Yeah, the governor's under. Here's the other thing. Before I go, why is the governor under investigation? Is he the same governor that ran on the ticket with then candidate Kamala Harris? But he's under investigation now. Interesting. But then we hear talk about taking revenge against your political opponent, or like, didn't we hear that talk early on? And that shouldn't have been happening. Well, it seems like it's happening again. It definitely seems like it's happening again. Why is the governor, the duly elected governor of that state, now under investigation? Sounds like what happened to Letitia James. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out, because you can't bully the governor of the state when the people duly elected him. And what is he under investigation for? What is he under investigation for? He's just doing his job, ladies and gentlemen. Allegedly, he's doing his job. But we'll see. See you guys on the next live. Peace.